What a day this has been. In the middle of a partial government shutdown, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she was all set to leave on a jet plane, well, actually a U.S. military plane, on your dime, embark on a 7-day excursion with other Democratic members of Congress. That is until President Trump pulled the plug. In a letter the president wrote Nancy Pelosi, due to the government shutdown, I'm so sorry to inform you that your trip to Brussels and Egypt and Afghanistan has been postponed. We will reschedule this 7-day excursion when the shutdown is over. In light of the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay, I'm sure you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. I also feel that during this period, it would be better if you were in Washington negotiating with me and joining the strong border security movement to end the shutdown. Obviously, if you'd like to make your journey by flying commercial, well, that would certainly be your prerogative. I look forward to seeing you soon, and even more forward to watching our open and dangerous southern border finally receive the attention, funding, and the security it so desperately deserves. And keep in mind, this letter comes roughly 24 hours after Speaker Pelosi called for the State of the Union to be canceled because of some phantom, it turns out, concerns about inadequate security due to the ongoing shutdown. And of course, we now discovered Nancy Pelosi never, ever, not once reached out to the Department of Homeland Security or the Secret Service before making that announcement. Now, both departments had long been planning for the joint address. They were fully prepared, and Nancy Pelosi made up those concerns. Why? Obviously, a political ploy, political gain, and a political show, rather than actually negotiating a real border security deal and an opening of the government. Now, she was just perfectly happy to take a government-funded plane and a government-funded intercontinental trip instead of just staying in Washington, D.C. and actually doing her job. Now, keep in mind her 7-day absence from Washington. That would have guaranteed the hundreds of thousands of furloughed federal workers, they would miss their next paycheck. It would have been impossible to get it. So she obviously doesn't care about furloughed workers. She only feigns moral outrage because she had no intention of being there to solve the problem. Now, today on the Hill, the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, backed up the president's letter 100%. Rightly so. Take a look.
Being Speaker of the House and leaving the country when it's shut down, I don't think that's appropriate, especially the Speaker thinks we shouldn't even have the State of the Union. I think the best thing that could happen, and everybody could calm a little bit, get in a room together, and put the American people first before their travels and solve the problem.
Now, remember, again and again, including yesterday, Democrats refused to go to the White House at the president's invitation. And remember that weekend when the vice president was staying all weekend to negotiate with Pelosi and Schumer, they just sent their aides. They didn't want a solution to the problem. So Leader McCarthy is right. Speaker Pelosi should be embarrassed. She claims that she cares about furloughed government workers, but she tried to postpone shutdown negotiations so she could take her government-funded international trip. She pretends that her fellow Democrats are ready to open the government immediately, but allowed dozens of her colleagues to take that luxurious, lobbyist-paid, extravagant, tropical vacation to Puerto Rico. There's the ones with lobbyists, corporate executives. And guess what? You can see right there, Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey. He's next to the woman in the bikini. Does that look like a man that's worried about furloughed employees of the government? This all expense paid vacation? Well, that's only 10 days into the new Congress. Vacation paid for 10 days in. Well, nice gig if you can get it. So only $1 for the wall, and the wall is immoral. Nancy Pelosi pretends that a partial shutdown is a major crisis, somehow made ample time. Where was she over the Christmas holiday? Vacationing in Hawaii. President urged her to come to the White House, meet face-to-face to negotiate. He stayed in Washington, gave up his vacation. She obviously doesn't care about the furloughed workers, and she obviously doesn't care about reopening the government. And what's worse, she doesn't care about the root cause of the shutdown, which is border security. This is literally, for many Americans, life and death. When angel moms and dads, families, yesterday, those that lost loved ones at the hands of illegal immigrants, went to her office to visit with Speaker Pelosi. She was in the office. She refused to come out and even meet them yesterday. And then you got fake Jake Tapper over at fake news CNN, and he's rushing to Speaker Pelosi's defense. Why? I don't know. Take a look.
A White House official tells CNN that Pelosi and members of Congress are welcome to fly commercial to Afghanistan. A remarkable statement, given that the president just announced to the world, including the Taliban, that the Speaker of the House was headed there.
No, he actually told him she's not headed there, unless she wants to go commercial. So Nancy Pelosi, she's obviously playing politics with the safety, the security of all Americans, all because she just hates Donald Trump. Remember, Democrats sounded like Donald Trump 4 years ago. So, yeah, it might be pretty easy to make this up on fake news CNN and their friends in the Democratic Party to call border security. They all use the same phrase, manufactured crisis. Really? Manufactured? Tell that to the face of angel moms and dads that were on this program on Friday, all of whom lost their kids because of illegal immigration and sanctuary policies. You know, the facts paint a very different picture. Now, over the past 2 years, approximately 4,000 criminal aliens have been arrested for homicide, 30,000 for sex crimes, over 100,000 for violent assaults. In just 2018 alone, 17,000 individuals with criminal records were apprehended trying to cross the border. We also saw a 122% increase in fentanyl being smuggled across our southern border. Americans are dying every day from overdoses, at least 300. Now, over the last few weeks, over 20,000 children were smuggled or trafficked into the United States. And as you can see, for so many, this is literally life and death. Angel moms, you know what? They're never going to see their kids again. That's permanent separation. Remember the Democrats? They seem to care about the issue of child separation, but only when they could politically bludgeon President Trump, who, in the end, fixed that problem, one that he inherited from their beloved Barack Obama. They never criticized him. Now, some victims will never recover, but this doesn't impact Democrats who are safe and secure on Capitol Hill, living it up, or taking junkets to Puerto Rico. That's why many of them have no problem calling border walls, they're actually saying walls that protect both sides, immoral. So I guess it's easy to play politics when you're not impacted, you're not affected. It hasn't been your family. And that's probably why Nancy Pelosi's district has now become covered. Look at this. We sent our cameras from the Hannity Show over to Nancy Pelosi's district. We showed you last night human feces, needles, while she's up there in Washington, D.C., raising money, playing politics, without tackling any real, serious, important issues. This is what her district looks like. Take a look.
When you have needles and blood-stained clothing in the streets, that can't be safe for anyone.
I do see like a lot of needles and then, you know, feces everywhere. And then that's obviously about drugs and stuff like that.
Kind of makes it a drab when you walk around, you see needles and close to a playground and just feces everywhere. I mean, the smell of it all. It's just kind of...
You definitely have to look on the ground when you're walking. And it's definitely an uptick because I've lived in the city more than 30 years and this is probably the worst I've seen it.
Pelosi's district, liberal utopia, pretty despicable. Now, given that Nancy Pelosi's massive net worth, her and her husband, it's over $30 million. That's her district. Well, she could take some of that money, build a homeless shelter in her district so that homeless people maybe can get a bite to eat, maybe sleep, take a shower, use bathroom facilities. Why not fix the problem in her district? Oh, that's right. Liberals are only generous with other people's money. Forgot that. She's too busy hating Donald Trump. She's too busy calling walls to protect this country from 90% of the heroin that comes in through our southern border. She's calling the walls immoral. But tonight, we're seeing some fractures now forming in the Democratic Party, including Pelosi's second in command. That's Majority Leader Steny Hoyer. Watch this.
We've supported substantial restraints. We've supported fencing. We've supported other technologies. My own view is this is not an issue of morality. A wall is immoral if it tries to imprison people who shouldn't be imprisoned.
Okay.
A wall that protects people is not immoral. I think the issue is whether it works.
It's actually good to see a rare moment of common sense from a member of the Democratic Party, but sadly, this is an anomaly. This is pretty unusual. This party has now been hijacked by the most radical individuals, including devout socialists and bigoted anti-Semites and lawmakers who want to dismantle, literally, the U.S. Constitution. It's beginning to be a pretty scary picture. And yesterday, we saw publicity seeker, far-left freshman Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez filming herself storming into the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's office. She's demanding that he reopen the government. Watch this.
We're marching over to Mitch McConnell's office and show him what's up. Is that right?
That's right. Right.
Okay, guys. We went to Mitch McConnell's office, where we went to the Senate cloakroom. Where's Mitch? You can run, but you can't hide.
Now, when Ocasio-Cortez is not busy plotting her next publicity stunt, well, she's teaching her far less media-savvy colleagues how to do the same. Because yesterday, she hosted a Twitter 101 class for her fellow Democrats. Because I guess they don't have other pressing issues to deal with. She's teaching them Twitter. And let's not forget, Ocasio-Cortez is the same member of Congress who literally wants to take all of your hard-earned money to pay for what are reckless, wasteful, big government programs, even floating a 70% income tax rate for some Americans. Dan Bongino had a great suggestion we'd like to echo here on this program. Ocasio-Cortez, let her lead by example. She can donate 70% of her income right now. Give it to the government. After all, her salary as a sitting member of Congress, it's actually triple the median income for an entire American family. So Ocasio-Cortez, well, you want to take everyone else's money. Will you donate your own? Will you actually put your money where your mouth is? Or better yet, will you take a trip? Maybe go to Cuba or Venezuela and see how your socialist utopia is working in action. Well, that's right. You can't because of the extreme conditions like crime and civil unrest and crumbling infrastructure. Now, they even ran out of toilet paper in Venezuela last year because of socialism. The entire country is going hungry because of socialism. They don't have basic medical supplies because of socialism. Do you really want that for America? How well did that work out for the former Soviet Union? Now, sadly, Ocasio-Cortez is not the only Democrat with these radical views. It's actually getting much worse. For example, many Democrats, including presidential contender Kirsten Gillibrand, get this, actively participating side by side with a well-known anti-Semite by the name of Linda Sarsour. Remember Sarsour? She has been known to praise and promote Sharia law. Well, we know what Sharia does for women, gays, lesbians, Christians, and Jews. That's right, all persecuted. She rants about so-called Zionists in Israel. She said that Ayan Hirsi Ali doesn't deserve to be a woman and deserves to have her female anatomy taken away. You may remember that Ali was a victim of female genital mutilation. And when she was accused of blatant anti-Semitism, she blamed, quote, the Jewish media. That's Kirsten Gillibrand's friend, Sarsour. Now, her, along with Tamika Mallory and a few others, they are now the founders and the lead organizers of this coming weekend's Women's March in Washington, D.C. They're both avid fans of the bigoted, hate-monger, anti-Semite, racist Louis Farrakhan. Mallory even calling Farrakhan the greatest of all time on Twitter. Now, a reminder, here's the person often praised by the founders of the Women's March coming up this Saturday. Take a look.
Here the Jews don't like Farrakhan, so they call me Hitler. Well, that's a good name. Hitler was a very great man. The satanic Jews, they control everything and mostly everybody. There were many Israelis and Zionist Jews in key roles in the 9/11 attacks.
See, the Jews have control over those agencies of government.
The powerful Jews are my enemy.
And according to recent reports, the Women's March actively coordinated with Farrakhan's Nation of Islam for security and other purposes. And on The View this week, Tamika Mallory refused to condemn this hate preacher, racist, anti-Semite. Take a look.
The Women's March unequivocally condemns anti-Semitism, bigotry.
Condemn Farrakhan's remarks about Jewish people.
Yes, and we have repeatedly in statement after statement this year, which are available directly on our website for anyone to read.
I don't speak for Jewish people, but I think I'm just confused. These remarks are, I mean, it goes on death to Israel over and over again.
We did not make those remarks.
We did not make those.
You can't
but you're associating with a man who does publicly.
What I will say to you is that I don't agree with many of Minister Farrakhan's statements.
Specifically about Jewish people.
As I said, I don't agree with many of Minister Farrakhan's statements.
Do you condemn them?
I don't agree with these statements. At the end of the day...
You won't condemn it.
Organizers of the Women's March, and until recently, the DNC was sponsoring this march coming up Saturday. They knew it was run by bigoted anti-Semites, but only now that it's out in the open, the DNC has canceled their partnership. But laughably, they won't acknowledge the reason for the cancellation. Now, believe it or not, Democrats have a long history with Farrakhan. In fact, remember, not that long ago, President Bill Clinton recently appearing right there on stage with Farrakhan. Obama was pictured hanging out with this hate preacher just prior to his time as president. By the way, they hid this picture from you, the American people, for 8 years. And sadly, the Democrats' close relationship with anti-Semitism, well, it doesn't stop there. Yeah, freshman Congresswoman Omar is also a known anti-Semite, once called Israel an apartheid state, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Watch this.
You wrote, Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them see the evil doings of Israel. You've commented a lot since then, trying to explain what you meant by that. And I wonder just what your message is this morning as the first on our Game Changers series to Jewish Americans who find that deeply offensive.
Oh, that's really a regrettable way of expressing that. I don't know how my comments would be offensive to Jewish Americans.
Your new radical, extreme, Democratic Socialist Party in America. Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, are you proud to call this anti-Semitic Democrat colleague of yours? And when Congresswoman Omar is not trashing Israel, so she's attacking Republican Senator Lindsey Graham because of his support for President Trump. Without any evidence, she tweeted, quote, they got to him. He's compromised. And on CNN, she had a hard time explaining her disgusting allegations. Take a look.
He is somehow compromised to no longer stand up for the truth and to make sure that he is fighting to protect the oath that he took in serving the American people.
But that's quite a charge to make. You say you're pretty sure. Based on what evidence? What facts? That's a remarkable comment to make about a sitting U.S. senator.
The evidence really is present to us. It's being presented to us in the way that he's behaving.
Again, just based on what evidence, Congresswoman?
My tweet was just an opinion based on what I believe to be visible to me.
Well, is Nancy Pelosi happy with this radical party of hers and these conspiracy theories? This party is now a disaster. America better wake up, because Democrats do not have your best interests in mind. And now we turn out to our Hannity Watch on our deep state tonight. We reported last night, John Solomon and the Justice Department official Bruce Orr admitting in congressional testimony that he warned the FBI brass and DOJ brass that that dirty Trump dossier was in fact political opposition bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC, and that the document was likely tainted with an anti-Trump bias because Christopher Steele had a personal animus towards Donald Trump. But it was still submitted months later to the FISA court as the bulk of information, despite never being verified or corroborated. So what does that mean? Our own Greg Jarrett explains it in a new column tonight. It means that Mueller's prosecutors knew that the Russian lies in the dossier was the product of bias, deception, and Greg will join us later in the program. We'll talk more about it. Also means that James Comey, Sally Yates, Rod Rosenstein, and all the others, well, they appear to have made a conscious decision to make materially false statements and lie and commit a fraud on the FISA court. This must be investigated and handled. The rule of law must prevail. And actively concealing pertinent information and failing to disclose to those judges that any of this in the FISA application on Carter Page. They presented it as full and truthful, and they knew the exact opposite. They abused the FISA warrant process. That is a violation of America's constitutional rights, and it undermines a duly elected president. Now, remember, James Comey told the president the document was unverified and salacious. Well, that was in January of 2017. He signed off on it as accurate in October of 2016. And William Barr, once you're confirmed as the Attorney General, you must do your job. You must investigate this. End this two-tier justice system.